Okay, thanks, Dave. So, hey, everybody, thank you for joining today. It's an honor for me to introduce Harness Service Reliability Management. I'm in product marketing, not a kingpin, as Dave said, but I love that. It's the first time anyone's ever called me that, and that's awesome. So I've been in the tech space for a really long time. I came out of the tech space. I was on the buyer side of software, so I was a systems administrator, and then I was an architect, like a monitoring architect, and ended up working for some other startups along the way that had great success, and thrilled to be here at Harness now. Love what we're doing at Harness. So again, today we're going to talk about Harness Service Reliability Management. So I'm going to introduce just some of the core concepts related to that. I'm going to try and talk for about 10 to 15 minutes at most. And then Darrell is going to take over with the really interesting part, and he's going to go ahead and demo the software. So let's just jump right into it. If you're not familiar yet with Harness's platform, I do have these images for you. So our software delivery platform consists of continuous delivery, continuous integration, feature flags, cloud cost management, and then we have two new modules that we just announced recently. So service reliability management that we'll talk about today, and security testing orchestration, which we'll talk about in an upcoming meetup. All right. So, when we think about service reliability management, one of the things that is common in many companies is the engineering team having to stop releasing new features to go ahead and focus for a little while, at least, on improving stability or taking care of bug fixes. I've seen this at pretty much every company I've ever worked at. So if you're in the engineering organization, this is probably going to sound familiar, that someone has asked you at some point in time to stop what you're doing and stop working on those new features and take however much time. It could be hours, days, weeks. Hopefully not months, but it is possible. I've seen it before where companies have taken months to work on stability and bug fixes. Now, kind of on the flip side of that, a lot of companies are adopting SRE practices, site reliability engineering practices, and the SRE team is on the other side of that conversation, right? They're often the ones that are saying, hey, our indicators say that you all in the engineering team need to stop releasing those new features because we are having too many reliability issues. Our customers are unhappy with the state of affairs as the applications are running currently. So it's never great being on either side of that equation, right? Those are not pleasant conversations usually that go down between those teams. And there's really one root cause of this. The root cause of it is pretty simple, right? When velocity increases, service reliability tends to go down. There are a lot of things that have been put in place to try and deal with this. And one way of dealing with this is with SLO-driven software delivery. So again, this kind of gets back to the Google SRE handbook. In there, it talks about using SLOs, and if an application is not meeting the SLO, then all other work has to cease until you fix that, right? And then you're back meeting your SLOs. So that's where we're going to focus. I'm going to introduce a few terms just to make sure that we're all on the same page with the key terms around SLOs. And the first one is going to be an SLA. Hopefully everyone is familiar with SLAs. Pretty much every company has SLAs, and these are these external agreements with their customers. They really define those customer expectations. These are the things where if you violate the SLA, you could potentially be subject to fines or other penalties related to your customers. So those SLAs are held sacred. Most companies try not to violate those SLAs. So what many companies will do is set service level objectives, those SLOs, and these are internal targets that are based off of the SLAs, and they're typically set more strict. So in this example, we have an SLA of 99.90%, right? And the SLO is set more strict at 99.95% availability of that service. So hopefully you will never violate the SLA because your SLOs are going to be alerting you that there are problems. Right. And those SLOs are then, those are determined based upon service level indicators. So the service level indicators are the actual metrics that are being collected Examples could be of availability or uptime, as well as even responsiveness of the transactions that make up your business services. Right, so use those to calculate those SLOs. And then the final term that we're going to talk about here is error budgets. Now, error budgets is really how much room for failure do we have? An error budget is a time-based budget. So it could be something like, hey, we have 5 minutes per week where we can be violating our SLOs, right? And that, once our error budget hits 0, then something should happen. There should be some sort of negative impact. Or maybe you set them a little bit higher and you can set percentages. When we get down to 50% of our error budget, there's something that's going to happen as a result of us burning through that much error budget, right? So that's really, there's some art form to setting these things, right? To setting that error budget and determining how much room do we really have? Are we leaving for velocity and innovation versus leaving enough room for reliability of our services? Now, there are many different companies at many different stages out there, and we talk to companies at every stage, and many companies are here where they don't know where to start with SLO management, and that's okay, right? SLO management, there's a skill to it, there's a science to it. It is documented in the SRE handbook, but still, you have to have the cycles, and you have to have some prerequisite knowledge to start taking care of SLO management. On the flip side, we have other companies that we talk to that are already using SLOs. Right. And when we think about those companies that are already using SLOs, we see two different things at those companies. We see this velocity mission that I've got on the left-hand side, and that velocity mission basically says, hey, let's go fast and deliver more for our customers. And on the right-hand side here, we have the reliability mission, and they're concerned with making sure that their customers are having a really good experience. And maybe you might need to adjust velocity for the sake of reliability so that those customers have that great experience that they're expecting. And so what we get is these two teams meeting in the middle, where one's saying, let's go faster. One might be saying, hey, let's slow down. And then conflict can ensue in the middle. Now, this whole field of SLO management, there are a few issues that we've seen in our conversations with many customers. And we've also seen these issues internally because we have an SRE team here at Harness. This SRE team uses SLOs and error budgets. And so we've gotten a firsthand look at exactly what potential issues can arise as a result. And often teams are setting and managing and tracking their SLOs and their error budgets manually. This might be by using spreadsheets. It could be setting this up in some dashboarding type of tools where you just have a dashboard presentation back at you of what your error budgets and your SLOs are at that point in time, right? But nothing automated based on that. Another issue that we see commonly is a lack of collaboration, either when setting up the SLIs, SLOs, and error budgets, or in determining what sort of governance should be applied based upon the results of what you've configured. And that really leads into what's on the bottom left-hand corner here, inconsistent governance. So let's say you've burned down your error budget. What we often see is that the reliability team, that could be an SRE team, it might be an app support team, it's going to have various names in various companies. We see that the reliability team is going to reach out somehow to the engineering team, maybe via Slack or via email, or set up a meeting with them, and then they'll have a discussion about what to do next, right? How are we going to handle this? Are we going to stop deploying new features and focus on stability and bug fixes, right? By doing so, it's really hard to scale out these practices and these processes. So companies are really struggling to scale this methodology out beyond tens of different services. And another important thing that we hear often is the engineering team, they really don't have a view into the current state of what their SLOs and error budgets look like. So they don't know when they're about to be hit by that bus, when the reliability team is about to come and say, hey, please stop deploying new features, right? So if they could have that same level of visibility, they could actually be a little bit more proactive in the process and plan ahead for these things. Ultimately, we'd love to see these things integrated with CI/CD, right? So it would actually solve a lot of the issues that you see in this current state. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is exactly the problem set that Harness has built service reliability management to solve. So I'll go ahead quickly through what SRM really is, a couple of the key features, some of the benefits, and then it's going to be demo time. So first of all, what is Harness SRM? Well, it's two different things. There's a standalone component to SRM, and this is where you would go ahead and set up your SLIs, SLOs, error budgets, and we'll talk more about that standalone functionality in just a minute. And then the other portion of it is this shift left of reliability into CI/CD pipelines. So let's shift it further left into the software delivery lifecycle, so that a couple of things, you can be more proactive in creating more reliable software, but also so that we can implement some governance within CI/CD pipelines to help ensure that reliable software makes it quickly into production or into the hands of the users. But if there's software that's not quite as reliable, that we have some guardrails in place to prevent that software from making it to the end users, so it can be fixed before it gets out there. So when we look at this solution, we have a few different use cases that the SRM accommodates. First of all, on the left-hand side, we have the use cases for standalone SRM. And so there's a few of them here, defining and measuring reliability targets via SLOs. So again, that is bringing the practice of SLO management. So if you've never gone down the path of SLO management before, this is how you get there, right? We're going to provide that framework for you and help you get there. Also identifying changes that impact reliability. So this is one of the really great things about the platform, is that, the deployment data, all of the different data from the CI/CD pipelines will show up across the platform. So you actually get to see, hey, was there a deployment that impacted my SLOs and error budgets? Or right now we also have Kubernetes events. So was there some sort of Kubernetes infrastructure event that took place that impacted the reliability of my software? So we surface that for you visually, and you can drill down into that. And Darrell's going to show that in the demo. Right. We also have this automated root cause analysis and error tracking and resolution. So we have this capability of seeing all the exceptions that the software is throwing, whether those be exceptions that you have gracefully handled or not. So you can make sure that all those exceptions that need to be cleaned up do get cleaned up before making it into production. On the right-hand side here, we're looking at the integration between CI/CD and service reliability management. And this is where governance really plays a big role. So again, it's great to be able to head down that path of using SLOs, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that there is strong governance, so that when there is an issue, when you're out of error budget, everyone knows what's going to happen, right? And it happens consistently and it happens automatically. And so that's, our governance is a big part of the overall Harness platform. We use the OPA framework, right? Open Policy Agent. We use that within Harness so that you can do, policy as code, and it's really easy to implement governance within the platform. The other thing that's really great about service reliability management is improving software reliability with reliability checks. So these reliability checks are different types of testing throughout the build and delivery process to help you understand the quality of your software at those points in time. Now, the ultimate goal here is that you can continuously improve the reliability of the software by improving the quality at each step of the way through the software delivery lifecycle. And ultimately, over time, your software will get more and more reliable with every new deployment. And the last thing here is the automated deployment verification and rollback via AI and machine learning. So Harness has the ability to monitor your deployment. So we take monitoring data from other tools. We look at that data. We apply machine learning to it. We apply some AI algorithms as well, so that we can learn good and bad behaviors. And we can make a decision, hey, is this a good deployment or a bad deployment? If it's a bad deployment, you can have a rollback policy that automates the rollback. So as quickly as possible, we're determining you have a deployment that needs to be rolled back, and we'll take care of it for you, right? So this is one of those features that's pretty unique to Harness. It's one of those time-saving things. Most companies use developers to sit and look at their log monitoring screens and their dashboard screens to try and determine this. So we take care of automating that for you. Right. All of these capabilities, all these use cases are underpinned by reliability data that's provided by our native error tracking capability, and also our integrations with other monitoring and logging tools. All right. So at the end of the day, we have this software. People are interested in this software because it's going to benefit you. So what are the benefits? I've got 5 of them here. So we're going to continuously improve service reliability. That's a huge one, right? It's basically gets directly to your end users, your customers. We want those customers to have the best experience possible. Standardization of these reliability practices across the organization. This is what, when we think about DevOps and SRE teams, we want to automate and standardize as much as possible so that we can scale out as much as possible. Reducing that engineering team workload related to reliability. So again, the ability to automatically detect errors and provide debugging data for you, the ability to automatically understand if you have a good deployment versus a bad deployment and potentially roll that back for you if you want us to, right? This just takes away busy work that engineering teams have to do today without Harness. The ability to scale the effectiveness of the reliability team without adding more people. All right, so this is a huge one where every company is looking to do a better job, but most companies want to do that better job without having to hire a massive team of people to manage it. So it's one of the benefits that Harness SRM brings. And then lastly, improving customer satisfaction via reduced downtime and faster MTTR. Right, so the more reliable software we create, the less likelihood of downtime. And of course, if we can detect problems quicker and roll them back immediately, we're going to have a better overall experience and a very low MTTR. So that's it for the presentation portion of this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Darrell's going to go in and demo some of what we just talked about.
Everyone see my screen okay?
Screen looks great, Darrell.
All right, awesome. I'm Darrell Dunn. I'm a sales engineer with Harness. Like Jim, I've worked with many startups and really excited to be here. We've got some, this is the service reliability management piece is going to be really awesome. We're going to add a lot to the portfolio and to customers. So, so basically, you've got a thumbnail look here at all your services that you're monitoring, all your microservices, nano services, ever how you describe them. And then these 3 little dots are your SLOs. And so you can see we've got one that's an issue. So this gives you a look at the last 24 hours. Services for Harness, we can look at 2 different types, infrastructure and application. So this infrastructure is supporting this order service across these different environments. So I'm just going to click in. And this is the first part that Jim talked about. This is the kind of the standalone piece, and then we're going to finish up with the CI/CD pipeline. So very quickly, you can see we've got our different SLOs here. We have 3 total, and we have a latency SLO, and we have an availability SLO. And so one of them needs attention. So right here, I can click and go to the one that's having problems. So our SLO looks pretty good, and we're actually starting to trend back in the right direction. But if we click over to our error budget, we've had some problems there. It's leveled off, but we've been burning 18%, burn rate for the day. So let me go in and do a little edit here, and we'll kind of dig into how we set these up. So like we've spoken about, everything is fed by the SLIs. So this is all pretty basic. You're going to select your monitored service. And you're going to go in and create the monitor service. But if you already have CI/CD, you can actually just select it from here. So it's really easy to import those in. So if you take a look at your SLI, this one's a latency one. And so we have different health sources. So if you look at the health sources we have available, we have all the big players, APM, logging, Dynatrace, Datadog. And we also have our own, what we were talking about, the exception tracking that's provided by Harness. And you basically go in, select a connector, select a feature, and then we walk you through a real nice wizard to pull that in. Again, if you already have a health source set up and you're already looking at in your pipeline, that's already there for you. So you're basically just selecting it. As far as a change source comes in, we'll talk about that in just a second. But if we look at our SLO target and error budget, here is where we can set up what type of SLO we have. And so we have two different types. You can do a calendar or you can do a rolling. And so the rolling is basically so many days that you want to do a rolling budget. Also for calendar, you have weekly, monthly, and quarterly, and then where your window ends. So for this one, we're doing a weekly and it ends on Saturday. And this is how many minutes that we have. And so that's basically how you set it up. It's very easy to do. And so if we look at our changes, so let's say we had some sort of issue and we want to dive in and take a look at that issue. I can just click right here, look at this window changes. So if we had some problems here, I can see there was a deployment. I can see there was an infrastructure change. I can drill into those and do some additional investigation. So if we go back to our monitor services, you can also enable or disable them from here. So let me dig in to one other area. So if we create an SLO, and I can select my monitored service and then select my SLI. Let me back up for a second. One of the things that we can do is if the budget is being impacted, you can reset the budget. And so we can increase or decrease the budget here. And some folks would be like, I don't want the ability for users to reset the error budget. Kind of goes against the whole SRE philosophy. But like Jim was talking about, we run into customers with different types of needs, and they're at different places on their journey as far as resetting the error budget. So we have to give that ability because they might have to break glass and do and increase the error budget. But everything that you're looking at is controlled, granular control with RBOC, and you can disable this, for users and have it only at an admin level to be able to reset an error budget. So along with the setting the error budgets, this is great. Now we're going to talk about shifting left a little bit. And if we go and look at our deployments, and we utilize the Open Policy Agent, CNCF incubated project for doing policies, where we can do a very granular, policy execution. So if y'all remember, our error budget was violated. So now I've come along and I want to run another pipeline. So if I want to run this pipeline, just click here and say, hey, let's run this pipeline, and select my input set. And then we're now deploying to CD, a product. But remember, our error budget has been violated. So if we run our pipeline, we're immediately stopped, and we can see that the pipeline has failed. We looked at 3 OPA policies, but let's look at the one here. Deployment to QA SLO budget remaining is less than 80%. So we're not allowing any more deployments. The great thing about this is this allows you no manual intervention. This allows you no one have to do a manual approval. A person has to get involved. We're watching that error budget 24/7. What Jim talked about, where you have you don't have information stuck in a silo. You're able to act on that with SRM to put a stop to this pipeline. And so this is what we have set up for this pipeline. You can also do other things. So you can do where, let's say we burned 20% of our error budget in the past hour. You can set a policy to say, okay, pause what's going on. Also send out a notification, say, hey, I need to send a Slack out, say, we've just burned this amount. Let's meet up and figure out what's happening. So you have that option as well. So as far as SRM goes, that's all I had to cover today. Any questions or anything else you'd like to see?
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Darrell. All right, so we don't currently have any questions in there, but I'd like to give folks a moment to ask some questions if you'd like in the chat window there. But while we're waiting for them, let's see, Jim, do you have, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, do you have anything to add that you'd like to contribute to this demonstration and this overview?
Yeah, so just want to make sure everybody understands that we, Harness SRM is, it works with Harness CD today, right? But it will be extended out beyond the boundaries of Harness, right? With all of our software, we integrate with other solutions. So we know we're not the only DevOps tooling that companies have. And so in the near future, we're going to be extending that out. So by the time we go GA, we're in the public preview phase right now. So we're working with lots of companies to keep improving the software to make sure it fits the needs of the companies that need to use the software. And within the next few months, we'll be at a GA stage where we'll integrate with all of the other solutions that are out there in the marketplace.